I'm Jessica Stutzman from Mill Creek Township. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Tonia Fernandez, the Director of Elections from the Erie County Voter Registration Office, which is dedicated to ensuring fair and accessible elections for all residents. Thank you for joining us, Tonia. I'm really excited to have you here. We have a really important election coming up here in November 2024. Can you give us the date for that?
It's November 5th.
November 5th, so everybody should have a plan going into Election Day. And what's so important from your office, and again, is ensuring fairness and accessibility from all parties, from anybody that wants to vote and have their opinion heard.
Absolutely. Our office is considered a voter service office, so we're happy to serve the members of Erie County, getting them registered to vote, providing information about the process of getting registered to vote, your options and your choices for Election Day for voting, just making sure that voters are equipped and ready to hit the polls or deliver their ballots on Election Day.
And I know working at the township, and I've worked at the switchboard as well, that there are a lot of questions that are directed to the township, and we immediately pass them on to your office. But a lot of the questions, and I know we'll go through them here, how do I register to vote? Where is my polling location is probably one of the biggest questions we get. So we'll just dive into our questions here, and we'll hit all the questions that maybe we've seen over the years.
Okay.
So who is eligible to vote in Pennsylvania or Erie County elections?
Well, you have to be 18 years old, and you can be turning 18 on November 5th, and you'd still be eligible to vote. And you have to be a U.S. citizen, and you have to have resided in Erie County for at least 30 days before the election.
And what happens, what happens if a voter forgets what district they're in, what polling station they're at? Where do they reach out to for information?
Well, I think the best source is to go to vote.pa.gov. You can check your registration status. It's going to let you know your party affiliation, and your polling location. It's going to have all of that information. If you requested a mail ballot, it'll have the status of your mail ballot. But if that doesn't work, you can always call our office. We're 814-451-6275.
And on the day of the election, are you guys getting a lot of phone calls?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Would it be best to ask them questions ahead of time to start thinking about this now?
Oh yeah, give us a call anytime. We do act as a call center on Election Day, so we're getting calls from voters and poll workers alike.
And if a voter needs transportation to and from the poll center, is there anybody available to help them?
So unfortunately, our office is not positioned to provide rides, but I would suggest calling your local party, call the headquarters, and maybe they can help you out.
And if a voter doesn't, and I do have people call and say this, I don't have access to the internet, I don't know how to get to my polling location, what's the best way to help give them some directions? You
could just come right to our office. We'll print you out directions. We'll help you understand how to get there.
And we did just say that the voter registration office is open for questions on Election Day. How will voters be notified of a closed polling location if their polling location closes and then they're redirected somewhere else?
And that is kind of common. So we have 2 polling location changes for this election. So we have the Erie 4th Ward 2nd District, who used to vote at the Zurn Science Center. They're now going to be voting next door at the First Alliance Church. And then we also have Mill Creek Township District 4 voters who traditionally voted at Curry Hall, and we had to move them last election to the community college, but they'll be going back to Curry Hall this election. So we are going to mail that information to all of those voters and just let them know that their polling location has changed. We have it listed on our website. And then also if you check your status online, it will alert you of the new change.
Okay, and so let's just say we've just turned 18, or maybe we haven't been registered before, but this is our very first experience at the polls. What can somebody expect when they actually arrive to vote?
Well, if it's your first time voting at a poll, regardless of if it's your first time voting period, or if you've moved and you're going to a new poll, you're going to have to bring an ID with you. So you could bring a photo ID, or your driver's license, or the voter ID that we mail you. That's not a photo ID, but it will work. and you'll have to provide that to the poll workers. And then once you get to the poll, you're going to have to sign in. So they're going to look up your name in these new electronic poll books that we've provided. They'll find your name, and then you'll have to sign, and then they'll hand you a ballot. You'll go over to a private station, cast your votes. It's a fairly simple process, but if anyone needs help, we do have poll workers available to help.
Okay. And then again, with this one being a presidential election year, do we expect short or long lines? Sometimes, again, and I unfortunately, I've seen weather play a role in how long the lines can be. Or again, if it's not a presidential election, sometimes we see shorter lines. But are we expecting shorter or long lines this year? Should people get there really early before work?
We can't predict the weather, but ever since we've gotten the electronic poll books, it's really smoothed out that whole process. So we're not expecting long lines at all.
That's good to know. Good for planning purposes.
Yes.
If you're going to go, again, make a plan. If you're going to go before work, if you're going to go after work, what time do the polls open and close for the day?
So they'll open at 7 a.m. sharp, and they'll close at 8 p.m. sharp.
Okay, good to know. So everybody make a plan on election day. And this was from so long ago, but there are no curtains anymore. We've got the electronic voting machines. And if a voter doesn't know what to do when they get there, if they're a little flustered with the electronic voting machine, is there somebody there to help guide them?
Yeah, so our poll workers can help. They can assist, but there is a form that the voter will have to fill out allowing the poll worker to assist them. Now, they're only going to be able to assist with the mechanics of the process. They won't be able to tell you who to vote for. We always suggest that voters come prepared and know who they're going to vote for. We do have sample ballots available on our website, eriecountypa.gov. If you go on the voting page, you can find a sample ballot, print one out, do some research, have all of your ducks in a row when you go to the polling location. But if you need help with the equipment, then our poll workers can certainly help you.
Okay, and so printing out that sample ballot kind of helps you makes your voting experience go more quickly too, because you're not flustered trying to remember who you were trying to vote for. You can bring that piece of paper in?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just don't leave it at the poll.
Yes. Okay, and then what happens, we have cast our vote. How does that get into the system? How is that vote counted?
So once you make your choices on a paper or on our ballot marking devices, because we have two ways of voting at the polls. So you can choose the traditional paper ballot, or you can choose to use the electronic ballot marking device, which is only going to print your choices for you. And then you have to take them over to a scanner and scan your ballot into the big trunk of the scanner. And then it takes a digital image of your ballot, and it also starts to tally those votes.
Wonderful. And once everybody has cast their vote, when is the official count confirmed?
Well, on election night, we're not going to stop until we have everything in. But then we have what we call a final count Friday, where we'll go through and we'll add in all of the provisional ballots from election day. But those provisional ballots are first gone through, we call it a discovery process, where we make a determination on whether that provisional ballot should be counted or not. Sometimes we'll have a partial count if somebody voted in the wrong precinct. So after we go through all of the provisional ballots, we'll be counting those on final count Friday. We'll also go through and recreate any damaged ballots. And then we'll also read in our military ballots. But then the following Tuesday is the deadline for our military and overseas voters to return their ballots to us. So from the Tuesday of election until the following Tuesday, we'll be counting additional forms of voting. And then after that, the Board of Elections will meet to do what's considered the first signing, and that's the first official count. After that, any challenges made to the count can be addressed with the Board of Elections or the Department of State, and that time period is when we would conduct a recount. After any recount has been done, and after 5 days of the first signing, the Board of Elections will meet again to conduct the official signing, which is the second signing. And all of that has to be done by November 25th.
Okay. And does anything trigger a recount if the votes are so close, or is there a margin of how close the votes are to each other.
Yeah, so on a statewide level, if it's below 0.05, so half of 1%.
And again, we mentioned the electronic voting machines and also the paper voting methods. Are there any other practices still in place?
Yeah, so we have the no excuse mail ballot option, which that's new. It's been introduced in 2020. It's not new to us, but it's newer. So traditionally, if you wanted to vote by mail, you had to vote absentee, and you had to qualify for that, which meant that you were either over 65 or you were going to be out of the municipality. But the new no excuse mail ballot is an option that anyone can apply to receive their ballot at home, or they can come into our office and vote early. Early voting in Erie will start on Wednesday, October 2nd. So voters can come into our office, apply for a mail ballot. We'll give them the mail ballot. They'll vote it, leave it with us. We'll store it in a locked location until we're allowed to open them on Election Day. Just one tip for early voting: if you bring your driver's license with you, then it's going to speed along the verification process, and you'll be in and out a lot faster.
Okay, and we were talking about your office a lot. Where are you located?
We're located in the county courthouse, which is 140 West 6th Street, and we're in room 112, just right on the first floor.
Good. Okay, so call, go in. Lots of questions will be answered in your, by your office.
Absolutely.
I do want to back up a little bit. Can we talk about election districts and how many districts are located in Erie County?
We have 149 voting precincts in Erie County. So when you register to vote, we're going to assign you to a polling location based on your address. And then we'll send you that voter ID, and it will tell you where you have to go to vote. If you don't go to your poll on Election Day, then you won't be on their roster. And so the only way you might be able to vote is by provisional ballot. Now, if you're registered to vote, that provisional ballot may still be counted. It depends on if it'll be a partial count or a full count, depending on the candidates that are on your home precinct ballot.
Okay. And again, if we're registering to vote for the very first time, when do we need to do that by, and how do we do it?
So you need to register to vote by October 21st, and you want to get those registrations into us as soon as possible. The easiest and quickest way to do it is to vote online, or to register to vote online at vote.pa.gov. That's not an instant process. Once that information gets submitted to the Department of State, then they send it to the counties to process. So you still have to go through all of the verification processes, and someone from our office will actually have eyes on it, and then they'll approve it or decline it, or whatever the case might be. But that is the quickest way to get your information to us.
And then are you sent a confirmation or a card or anything to let you know that it was successful?
Yeah, if you provided an email address on that application, you'll get an email which will inform you of the process of the update of your voter registration. Otherwise, you'll get a voter ID letter. We're calling it in the mail. It's not a traditional ID. It's not going to have your picture on it. It's just a letter, but it will have your polling location and your voter ID and all of the information that you registered with. So it's important that voters just take a look at it, make sure that your party affiliation is correct, your address is correct. If everything's good, just sign it and keep it for your records.
Okay. And then for the 2024 election, again, we know there are some notable positions open and some important questions or issues to address. And we kind of mentioned this already, but where can somebody learn more details about, a sample ballot, or what, some other important questions that may be asked on the ballot?
So you have access to the sample ballots on our website at eriecountypa.gov under the voting tab. But our office is nonpartisan, so we can't give out any information about the candidates. But again, I would just suggest going to your local party headquarters. I believe they create these wonderful pamphlets with information about the candidates running for office that are affiliated with their party. And the Mill Creek Township for this election has a referendum to establish a Mill Creek Township Government Study Commission. So that's going to be a yes or a no question. And then we are recommending to voters regardless of how they vote for the study commission, if it's yes or no, you still have a voice in who the candidates are. So you should still vote for the candidates, even if you vote a no for the commission. That way you have a voice in that, in who gets elected to that commission if it wins.
Wonderful, thank you for that. What does it take on your end in your office to make for a successful election day?
Well, it takes a lot of people. It takes hard work and dedication. We start the planning of an election right after the end of the current election. So right after this election, we're going to move right into the 2025 municipal election. So it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of training. We have almost 900 poll workers out in the fields who we have to train. And it's a lot of collaboration between all of us, sitting down as a team, making decisions, just looking over our processes, maybe identifying areas where we can do a little bit better, and then putting our momentum into that. So it's wonderful. I love working in elections. I've been with the elections office for almost 12 years, and it is just a very rewarding career.
And again, how long that particular polling day, I mean, what the public sees is, you know, opening 7 a.m., closing 8 p.m. What do your staff and poll workers have to do?
Well, they have to arrive at 6:30. Sometimes they'll go in the night before and decorate and stuff, but they need to be there at 6:30 to start setting up. So what that looks like is they're going to unlock the voting machines, get them all set up and ready. They're going to set up the voter check-in table where they get their electronic poll books ready. They get their rosters out, make sure the markers are in place, and just making sure that the privacy screens are set up. So there is some work to do before we can allow voters to come into the polls.
We just have a couple minutes here left, so I just want to touch on some really important questions. And I think this may be a frustrating one, but what would you say to somebody who thinks that their vote doesn't matter?
Oh, I would say your vote absolutely does matter. Your vote is your voice, and your voice within the community, any community, matters.
And if someone listening feels like they want to become involved in, you know, either they want to run for office or, you know, they want to consider running for office, what would their next steps be? Who do they reach out to?
They can contact me, contact our office. We will be gearing up for the 2025 municipal election after this election. So in 2025, we'll have more information about running for office. We'll have signature requirements, filing fees, all of that. But then we also have like an information night for candidates thinking about running for election, and just giving them all of the information that they need to do so successfully.
Well, Tonia, I really appreciate you being here. I think, again, the most important thing is gaining clarity and a plan going into Election Day. And I really appreciate, again, you really clarifying some of these confusing or you know, things that concern people on Election Day. I want to thank you for being here. Is there anything else you want to leave our viewers with before we turn them out onto Election Day?
I do. So we did talk about the no excuse mail ballot option, and I just want to remind voters that the deadline to apply for that is October 29th, but that's kind of late. I do recommend that they get their applications in as soon as possible. And then also, if you've already applied for a mail ballot, you should receive it in mid-October.
So to reach back out if you have concerns, if you haven't received anything, make sure to contact your office right away.
Yeah, don't get too worried, because you're probably not going to get it until mid-October. But if you don't receive it, then contact us.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you being here today.
Thank you.
Viewers, again, we chatted here and we had Tonia on the show. Again, really want to stress that your vote is your voice, and we want to hear it. We look forward to seeing you at the polls coming up in November. I want to thank you for tuning into the Mill Creek Government Channel, and until next time, have a great day.